Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Design at Green. My name is Carter, and today we're going to be talking about why I chose landscape architecture. Now, before I get into specifics of why I chose landscape architecture as my profession, I would love to take a quick minute and introduce myself and this brand new channel as well. So let's get right into it. So a little bit about me is that I'm 23 years old and I grew up in Massachusetts. I then went on to study landscape architecture and urban design from the University of Massachusetts. And then I recently graduated and moved into an entry-level designer position outside of Boston, where I'm currently working now. So I'm very new, so I'm hoping to continually grow my design skills alongside as this channel grows as well. So speaking of this channel, it's brand new and it's my first ever YouTube video. And the reason why I wanted to create this channel was based off of my experience in school as a landscape architect. And I had a kind of a roller coaster experience, and I wasn't really sure if this was the right field for me over my years. And it wasn't really till I found YouTube and kind of found some ways to make myself feel more confident in the field that I really knew I could make this a profession of mine. And I know from colleagues and friends that I definitely wasn't alone in thinking this. So I would imagine kind of at a global scale that this is pretty true. So I really want to utilize that and try to help as many people out as possible in educating and teaching them about what to expect in design school and what they're going to kind of encounter and know what to expect going forward as a professional. So that being said, you guys are going to be able to learn about the lifestyle of being a designer, what design school is like, the more nitty-gritty details like architectural visualization, hand graphics, rendering skills, all those good things. So it's going to be, pretty detailed, and hopefully it can give as much information as I know and that I'm learning and learn from others to you guys. So again, I'm really just hoping I can give back as much as my knowledge as I've learned to you guys and kind of have a safe place for you guys to kind of collaborate and share your ideas and your thoughts and your work all in one space, so that you guys can know that you're not going through the process alone. You always have your design members and your teammates, but there's also a bigger outreach to that I hope to make you guys aware of, that it's pretty universal of what you guys are going through. So I definitely understand and appreciate that for sure. So if you guys are already in a landscape architecture program, or you're going to be joining one in the fall, and any of this sounds interesting to you, feel free to subscribe and like this video, and feel free to check out my link tree for my other content. There's going to be content on my Instagram, my TikTok. I'm going to be doing kind of sketching tutorials and quick tips on there, as well as Pinterest board, where you can find just a bunch of different inspirational stuff for all the different types of drawings you guys are going to be needing, like presentations and visualization graphics and diagrammatic stuff. So that's all going to be great. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check it out. But with all that aside, let's get into landscape architecture and what it is and what it means to me. So let's dive right in. So according to the ASLA, which is the American Society of Landscape Architects, landscape architecture involves the planning, design, management, and nurturing of the built and natural environments. So landscape architects work to improve human and environmental health in all communities, and they plan to design parks, campuses, streetscapes, trails, plazas, residencies, and other projects that strengthen the community. And that's kind of one of the cool things about landscape architecture, is it's so broad and encompasses so many different things, but at the same time it can be kind of ultra specific, and you can get super minute and super caught up in just the details of something so minuscule in design. So on that note, that's something really unique and cool that I think landscape architecture has to offer. Just the fact that every time you do a project, it's different from the last one. And even though landscape architecture gets very monotonous in the type of work you're doing and the kind of process of it, it's always on a different project, so it feels different to you. And also just the sheer amount of different career paths you can go into is something that's really unique. You can go into public work, private residencies, huge kind of urban design projects, ecological restoration projects. You can work for the National Park Service. So there's just really so many different options you can go into. So it doesn't really limit you in the front, and they kind of all kind of intertwine in a way with what you learn. So you don't really ever have to pick one and go. You can just take it and study landscape architecture and kind of decide later, and that's something that I'm very much still deciding in my journey as well. So something else that left an impression on me about landscape architecture school was just the different facets that you kind of get intertwined with as a designer. Landscape architects are kind of a jack of all trades. We kind of have to know a little bit about everything to really make our design utilized to the fullest. We have to know how to create spaces that are cognizant of people, communities, wildlife, the environment, and more. So we really need to have a lot of different skills in a lot of different areas. And I'm not really saying that you need to be an expert in these. I'm by no means an expert, but that's just something you should expect as a landscape architect on your day-to-day basis, is to kind of be learning about a lot of different things. And the more you can know and the better you can be prepared for a certain example or a certain project, the better you can respond to it, and the better and more well received it can be by not only people, but people who have a say in the environment, and as well as keeping the wildlife in mind too. So those are all great things in landscape architecture. So I think if you're a naturally curious person of how the world works, I think landscape architecture would be a really great field for you. But that's kind of what landscape architecture is, kind of viewed as in a really broad lens, and kind of what the kind of end game goals are as a landscape architect. So now that you know a little bit about what landscape architecture is, I would love to just take a quick minute and just talk about what a landscape architect would do on more of a day-to-day level. And what you do is you design meaningful spaces, and you do that using a bunch of different tools, whether it's hand graphics and you're drawing with pen and paper, or you're using these softwares like CAD, Lumion, SketchUp, Vectorworks, and kind of all these other programs that you have at your arsenal. So you'll be splitting your time. Usually the front end stuff, like the kind of beginning design kind of concept stuff, can be quick and with hand and hand drawn, and then usually the kind of later phases of design, you're at this point in where things are headed in technology, you're spending most of that time on the computer. So now that you know that, I'm just going to walk you through what a typical project would look like in landscape architecture. And that's, you meet with a client and you get a project, and you'll end up going to the site, and you'll walk through the site, and you'll take a bunch of notes down, and you'll ask the client a bunch of questions and kind of figure out and gauge what he wants and what's most important from that package that he wants. And you'll take all that knowledge and go back, and you'll start drafting up these kind of initial concept ideas and plan and perspective, and then share it back with the client, and the client will like it, and you'll go back and you'll start to kind of refine those drawings and make them more realistic. And then it'll go through all these different phases. It'll go through schematic design documenting, construction documenting, and then construction administration, which is definitely a topic for another video. But those are kind of just the 4 main phases of design, where it gets more and more refined until it's eventually built. So that's kind of what you would do. You spend a lot of time at your desk on the computer. It can be long hours at times, but sometimes you kind of just get lost in the drawings, and it doesn't really feel like you're spending a lot of time, but it can definitely happen for sure. So hopefully that gave you guys a good idea of what landscape architecture is, kind of on a large scale, broad definition, and kind of a small scale of what you would actually do in the office. And I can say so far that I've really enjoyed my process of learning to become a better designer, and I'm by no means like a natural artist or really that much of a creator. It's definitely something that I learned and kind of pushed really hard to get better at. So if there's people out there who are nervous about that side of things, don't shy away from it, because you can definitely still be good at it. And I really enjoyed my experience, and I'm really happy that I'm in this profession so far. So if you guys like this video and you want to see more content revolved around what it's like to be a designer, feel free to hit that like button. And to all the new designers and current designers out there, leave a comment below on what your first impression of landscape architecture was. I would love to see what you guys think about it and compare based on what I said. So that's going to be all for me today, but thank you guys for taking the time to listen, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.